Now, why do I tell you all this? I tell you this because I did 3 investments with money at that time. And of the 3 investments, 2 of them failed.
This is Secrets for Success.
Welcome to the Seizures for Success podcast. I'm your host, Greg Todd. Thanks as always for joining me. Today, I want to share with you guys my journey as a first-time business owner, as a practice owner, and kind of just what shaped me with regards to everything that I'm doing today. So before I get into renewal rehab, I think the first thing I want to do is I want to thank a couple people. I've already thanked my wife because she is the one that challenged me and forced me to play the time game. And without her forcing me to play the time game, there is no way that I would have left my job and gone after it. Now, I want you all to understand something. I decided to open up my own clinic in 2005 because there was no online. There was none of that. It was either you were going to build a practice. If you were going to continue to be a physical therapist, the only way that you could have the potential to make money and earn a living if you wanted to continue to be a physical therapist is by building your own practice. So that was the only way it was going to happen. You had to build a practice, and it gave you the potential to make more money and have the time freedom, which is what I was looking for. So the person that I want to thank is Mike Anastasis. So Mike is my business partner, and this was 2005. I'm now working with tennis professionals. I'm just left my job at Core Rehabilitation, and the accountant that I was going to use to start a business introduced me to Mike and said he is one of his clients. And Mike gave me a bunch of awesome information on what it was to run a business, and basically asked me, hey, would you be willing to sub in for me for a couple of days? Because I haven't taken a vacation in years. And I did. And the staff, he had like 1 or 2 staff, but they basically told him, hey, this guy's really good, and he's knows all these tennis players, and he had all these celebrities come in while you were gone, and he took care of all your clients too. So, man, you need to try to keep him around. And then Mike basically offered me an opportunity to stay while I was getting ready to open up my own clinic. And I had to wait a year because I had a non-compete. Anyways, Mike ended up becoming my business partner. And, you know, today it might have seemed like, oh, of course you should make that move. But I was a 27-year-old punk. And like, Mike's a lot older than I am. And I do thank him for trusting in me. I made him a lot of money. Okay, but he trusted in me, and I didn't have the confidence that I have today. And so I'm very thankful for him for that. Now, here's the deal, you guys. The deal is that there were no online business setups back then. At least I didn't know anything about those things. Here is the reality behind what happened with renewal rehab. Number one is I didn't have the money. I had to go and get the money. But I live in America, and in America, you can borrow. And so I was able to borrow $180,000, and I pulled it off of a line of credit that I was able to get from the house that I was living in. And I used that $180,000 to do 3 things. Number one, it was to buy into renewal rehabilitation as a 40-40-20 partner, okay? So I had the same amount of ownership as Mike did. And then we had another partner named Janet who had 20%. Number two, I used that money to go into a 4X trading investment. It was $20,000. It ended up being a Ponzi scheme, and I lost it all. And then number three, as I used the remaining amount of that money to be able to take a property that I was going to flip. And it was a brand new property. I went into it with my father, and it flopped. And I ended up having to short sale it about 3 years later. Now, why do I tell you all this? I tell you this because I did 3 investments with money at that time. And of the 3 investments, 2 of them failed. And that's kind of the odds, okay? But 1 went right. And year to date, I'm not a part of Renewal Rehab anymore with day to day. But year to date, Renewal Rehab has made me over $30 million. So the thing you must understand is that all it takes is for you to hit it once in order for it to work, okay? That's it. The other 2 failed. I lost all my money, but I hit it with Renewal Rehab. But can I tell you on today's episode what it actually took for me to hit it with Renewal Rehab? So number 1 is it took a lot of rejection. I put a ton of money into starting the Renewal Rehab Wesley Chapel Clinic. And when I started that clinic, I thought that because I was working with professional tennis players, I thought that because I had prior relationships with other physicians, that I was going to have all these clients come my way. Did that happen? Absolutely not. Those physicians forgot about me. They didn't care about what the hell I was doing and who I was working with. The average Mary, Joe, Jane, and John did not care that I was working with Justine Henin or working with Jennifer Capriati. They didn't give a crap that I was working with those people. So the reality is that I was about 5, 6, 7, 8 months in, and I had very little to no patients. I was losing money every single day. And honestly, about 6 to 7 months into it, I was like, I think I made the worst decision of my life. I remember one day I was out trying to drum up business and go to a bunch of different doctor's offices. And at this point, I went to 15 different offices, actually 14 offices, and they all told me no. And I went to my 15th office, and I was at this point just so emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually exhausted. I was just continuing to hear no all the time. And I went into this office, and it was a doctor. His name is Dr. Cosolino. Went into their office. He had a full waiting room. He had people on the left side. He had people on the right side. And as I went to the front desk, I remember the front desk person opened up the window. You know how they open up those windows in the medical offices? And the front desk person said, "Can I help you?" And I said, am I able to speak to Dr. Cosolino? And it was the first time that the stuttering was so bad. And it was in front of probably about 15 people in that waiting room. And I felt like everybody was looking at me. And the reality is that they were. And the lady said, "Listen, he's not available. Please do me a favor. Don't come back." And I said, "Okay, I'm sorry. Now's not a good time." I turned back around. And as I turned back around, I felt like every single person in that office was looking at me. And I walked out. And I walked out of that office with my head down. And as I was walking to my red Expedition, I remember calling my wife. I called my wife, who was home with our 2 kids. And she said, "Hey, babe, how you doing?" I was like, "Oh, it's kind of going okay. It's going, it's not okay." And then I just started, and I started crying. And I was like, "I'm just having a really rough day and everybody's rejecting me. And I think I'm just going to come home. And let me just rest. And I'll just hang out with you and the kids." And my wife said, "Here's the deal, babe. I'm so sorry you're having a terrible day." But she's like, "But here's the thing you're not going to do. You're not coming home." And she said to me, "You got us in this mess. Now it's time for you to get us out." And that honestly is the reason why Renewal Rehab survived. Renewal Rehab survived because it had to work or it had to work. Truth is that I worked 6 days a week for about 2 years before I was able to bring my schedule down to 5 days a week. And after I brought my schedule down to 5 days a week, I busted my butt for 5 days a week until I was able to hire someone to start helping me, another therapist. And the truth is that I hired another therapist. And as I hired that next therapist, and now at this point, I probably had about 4 staff that are working for me. I had a whole bunch of autoimmune problems, and I was getting hives, and my lips were swelling up because I'd get these anaphylactic reactions. And I was probably seeing anywhere between 75 to 100 patients a week. I wish I could tell you another story, but it was hard. But can I tell you the amazing things that happened throughout that process? Throughout that process, it increased my capacity. You see, today, people think that I work extremely hard. My hard work today is not hard work for me, but it's because my capacity had increased so much during that time with renewal rehab, where I had to bring energy not only to my patients, I had to bring in energy to my staff, I had to bring energy to my business partner. I was the one that was leading the company. I had to have the energy to be able to bring to our vendors, to our providers, to the people that we're partnering with. And I had to bring that every single day. Even when I went to church, I had to be on. I had to look for other people, maybe other people in our congregation to partner with, or maybe somebody needed help with their injuries or whatever. It was like that nonstop for me for nearly 10 years. And so, like, that's what it looked like. That's what the grind of renewal rehab looked like. And it took me about 8 years to get to the point where I could actually finally get back my time. So this is 2012, 13. 2012 was when I went on a month vacation with my family to Jamaica. And I was like, oh my gosh, this was finally paid off. 7 years of showing up 5 to 6 days a week, 7 years of just dealing with health issues because I was running myself into the ground, 7 years of just, every day showing up and never having a day off with my energy, never coming in with the lull, never not coming to work because of a headache, none of that nonsense. I remember even one day I had a seizure that morning and I still went and did a 12-hour day at work. And so, you guys, there's a certain level of work and capacity that it took in order to hear, oh, that business, wow, he had one business that paid off and made him $30 million, da-da-da-da-da. Like, that's what it took to make it work. And you want to know why the others didn't work? It's because I didn't have control over them. So I didn't have control. I put the control in somebody else's hands. Now, unfortunately, those were, for that foreign currency exchange thing, that Forex, that was some bad people's hands. And then the other one, I just was doing something that I really didn't know what I was doing with the real estate stuff. But the reality is that I put my all into this thing when so many other things were working against me, and we were still able to make this business work. And so that's what happened. And renewal rehab got to the point where it was able to make me nearly $500,000 take home per year. I got to the point where I was working 1 to 2 days a week in that business. The business collectively was doing about 1.4 million a year, but it took a lot of hard work. And so my staff started telling me, Greg, you're inspiring, and because of you, I want to go into business and I want to have a practice. And they love working for me because I was mentoring them and helping educate them. And so many of them decided to go to PT school so they can follow in my footsteps. And they started to tell me that as they were going to PT school and they were doing flex programs, they were telling me that the people that were in their classes were asking if I could mentor them because they were frustrated that their internships weren't fun and they weren't inspired and they feel like they made a bad decision to become a therapist and all that other stuff. So I decided that I would mentor them, and I told my staff, have them come in, and I'll come in an additional day per week and just serve, your classmates. And they're like, but Greg, that's not really possible because a lot of them live in different cities and da-da-da-da-da. Can you just start doing videos? I was like, well, what video do you want me to do? So my staff, Chantel, she actually got out her phone. That day, it was in September. It was when the new iPhone was just released. And it was the first iPhone that had the 4K version, I think. And she said, why don't I just do a video of you? Why don't you tell people if they should become a physical therapist? And that was the first video I ever did. That was my first YouTube video that I did, now helping other healthcare providers. Should you become a physical therapist? And that video ended up doing over 250,000 views on YouTube. And that was the start of me helping other healthcare providers, and namely physical therapists. And so that started this thing called Smart Success for Physical Therapists. And it only started because of the pain that I went through. It was the pain of trying to break out of the time for money trap. It was the pain of going from an employee to an entrepreneur. It was the pain of actually trying to grow a business and not knowing what to do. It was the pain of trying to do everything myself and not trusting anybody else. It was that constant pain that I went through that I was able to have so many stories of what not to do so that I could make other people's journey a lot less painful. And so we started Smart Success Physical Therapy. And in March 29th of 2016, I had my first customer, Calvin Randolph. And from there, the SSPT mission was born.